Hey folks, it's me, the Bloodclaw, once again here with another information video for you. And before I get started, I just want to say, what do you guys think of my new intro for this series? There, you just watched it. I quite like it. One thing I did notice when I was making it the other day though, that made me laugh way more than I should have, is actually the Warhammer text that comes up on screen happens at the same time as the Chaos Ogre is lifting his Warhammer, and I just laughed way more than I should when I was watching that back. But there we go, that's that said. Now, oh my word, what information do I have for you today? Oh, there's so much! There is, oh my word, it is beautiful. The video CA released today was huge information wise. We got to see the full map. It looks epic, it looks pretty. There is a very large variety in the terrain, from marshes to volcanoes, that are all going to greatly affect and interfere in our battles, giving the game so much new sort of aspects to it. The whole map has very different sort of artistic feels and lighting effects across it. So it's like up in the Chaos North, it's very dark and very cold and very scary, whereas in the Empire it's lush and vibrant, and in the mountains it's snowy but majestic, and oh, the whole map is awesome. Now, really big news for me, because so many people told me no, this is impossible, this is not going to be true, when I said it ages back when they first announced this game, that it would be interesting to see if Brets and Wood Elves would make it in because of their close proximity to the other races. And, well, the campaign map includes their territory. We actually got to see some Bretonian forces, so it's pretty much guaranteed that Wood Elves and Bretonia are going to be in as non-playable races at launch. Now that brings us up to 4 non-playable races at the moment. And those 4 non-playable races, which will become playable eventually, are Kislev, the Border Princes, Bretonia, and Wood Elves. Now, Kislev was basically confirmed when they announced Chaos were going to be in-game at launch, because they're kind of right in between the Empire and the main incoming hordes of Chaos, so it's kind of hard to not have them in it. And as for the Border Princes, they're kind of the same, but on the Orc side of the Empire. So they'll probably be really weak factions, probably a harder Empire version of the Empire campaign in a way with different units, and Empire will probably use them a lot like buffers to slow the Chaos and the Orc invasions down before they hit Empire lands. Now, let's move on to some other really juicy information. Orcs have been confirmed to not be a horde, because we see them conquering a city. Now, before we show you conquering that city, let's just take a look at some cities. These cities are beautiful. They're what I wanted in Rome, but I didn't see, in the fact that they start off looking just like their parent faction, their starting faction. So an Orc Karak looks all dwarven iconography, all that sort of stuff. But then, say, Orcs take it over, it's still the basic dwarf settlement you see underneath, but Orcs just Orcify it. And hopefully you should be seeing that on screen if my video editing skills are as good as I hope they are. Yep. So I really love that. That's what I thought they were doing Rome. I thought if you conquered a Roman city, it'd still look Roman, but you'd sort of barbarianify it. That's what I thought was happening with Rome 2, but I was really disappointed when I'd seen that it wasn't. And this game has done it for me. Oh, it is beautiful. And of course, if the parent faction reconquer it, they sort of return it to its former glory into their sort of style. Be interesting to see what Empire would do to a dwarf Karak, for example, then, or what dwarfs would do to an orc city. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what that looks like, because that defies logic. It's simple for orcs. They just throw orc symbols all over it. Like, literally. Just like, there's a dwarf face there, let's stick a wooden orc skull on it. But for the other races, it's not that simple. So it'll be really interesting to see that as it comes further down the line. Now, city management has been slightly altered from what I have seen. The building browser user interface looks so much simpler in my opinion. It's got all the buildings on one sort of tab. You can just scroll over them, get all the information you need. It looks so much simpler and easier. They have also changed it so now instead of just having the required research or required money or required skills, all that sort of stuff to build a building, you now also need to have a settlement built up. So you can't just have a little backwater village somewhere with a little tier 1 settlement and then have a tier 4 barracks in it. It just does not work like that. You need to have a settlement that's built up and is able to actually supply that barracks, and it's not completely pointless and stupid as it would be in real life. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to build the tier 4 barracks. A good example is you see the orc stomping ground, which is where they recruit giants, is a tier 2 stomping ground basically. They're giant units, barracks so to speak, and it requires a level 4 settlement before you can build it. Tech trees look like they are quite nice as well. Now we only got to see the orc tech tree, which is really simple. It's orcs, technology is not their forte, and most of their techs are simply things like bigger wheels and unit unlocks or stronger clubs. But more than orc 40k fantasy, orc sort of order. Whoa! Let's get this stomping. So that looks really nice, and it's nice and simple for the orcs. But they did state that for other races, it is going to be much more suited to them, much more complicated. For example, the Empire is going to have their tech trees, and to unlock certain branches or certain technologies, you require certain buildings or other requirements, which we've not seen before in Total War games, to actually have requirements for our research. What I think would be a good example of this is, say, you'll need some form of engineer's workshop before you start researching some sort of engineer techs. So it's like the research is going on inside that workshop. Or you could need a major study to research some sort of magic technology and stuff like that, which sounds really interesting and gives a lot more depth and a lot more strategic thinking involved in your actual empire building. Now, what else are we going to talk on? Yep, I need to scroll down looking through my notes. Here we go. We also got to see a legendary Lord's skill tree, WAAAGH. We got to see his one. Lords and heroes now have 30 levels instead of 10, with a lot more depth in their skill trees. Everything from skills and spells to mounts and buffs. It is drastically going to alter your lords. No longer will your generals all feel the sort of same and you'll always have this go-to skills. You're just going to have so much variety in them. Given your lord a mount, for example, will let him fly, and it'll be awesome for ambushes and stuff like that, or giving them an epic weapon which gives them lots of armor piercing, will make them very good against units like dwarves or monsters. And we're actually told that Grimgor's magical axe is actually very good at the latter I just stated there, it gives him a very nice damage and armor piercing buff, which will make him very good at taking down those units. We also got to see Skullmuncher, which is WAAAGH's mount when he unlocked it, and he got to use it on the campaign map, and he will get to use it in battles after he has unlocked it as well, which was quite nice. Lords and Heroes also get 6 slots for their magic and epic gear, which drastically improve and alter their abilities, making them even more specialized and make them feel even more different and customizable. 2 orc war bosses, for example, never need to be the same sort of unit. Like I've talked about a wee bit earlier, but you could have one that is a pure tank, you give him great armor, great weapon, and he just bogs down enemy units and lets your army go on the flanks, shoot them down, do all that sort of stuff as he sort of tanks them, sort of holds them in place and lets you get flanks and sort of charges like that. Whereas another war boss, you might give him like his mount and some other magic items, turning them into a pure killing machine on a wyvern, for example, that are really great for sneaking behind enemy lines and getting those RT kills and getting those rear charges and being the one to do the killing. Now we got to see WAAAGH acquire a new magic item in the form, it was a reward for winning a battle, which seems to be a random drop, so it's like a drop rate chance when you win a battle, and he got a new pendant which he can equip, which allows him to have an aura that debuffs nearby enemy units. We seen this as part of a new pop-up system, which shows you the money, the experience, and any other rewards that you get from winning a battle or doing something, which was quite nice, and it's nice visual. You don't have to go, oh, what did I get from that? What did I get from this? It just sort of pops up on the screen and you get to see it. Okay, let's talk a wee bit about the orc specific mechanics now. We're going at quite a fast pace because I've got quite a lot to cover here. Instead of integrity, orcs get a bar called fightiness. Now this fightiness bar varies from integrity in quite a few ways. It essentially shows you how happy your orcs are in the same way as army integrity does. But you get it differently. Orc fightiness increases from winning battles, raiding enemy territory, anything an orc like that would enjoy, as you'd expect. And an orc standing around doing nothing, the fightiness lowers drastically. And when the fightiness gets low, orcs start to suffer from animosity. And what animosity means is that the army starts literally killing itself as the infighting starts. And orc on orc, they're killing each other just to get their fightiness. They've got to have that fightiness. A good way to try and combat this if you're playing the orcs is a new orc specific stance, which is called Raiding Camp. This stance keeps your fightiness in an okay state, as well as generating you a really nice amount of income from raiding the local land and hurting whoever owns that land. There is another huge bonus from being in this stance though, as it allows you to recruit units as though you were in your own territory. Albeit it is at an increased cost and time, so it will take an extra turn and cost say twice as much to recruit. But I feel this is very good. It's not overpowered thanks to the increased cost and time, but is very strong and allows orcs to be very aggressive, which is what their playstyle should be, and it allows them to blitzkrieg really well. On the other hand now though, we've talked about what happens if your fightiness gets low and a good way to combat it. What if your fightiness gets to max? This is when your army calls a Whoa! Now, a WAAAGH is its spell, and often just called when people don't put the emphasis on it, is what orcs live for. It's the epitome of orc culture. When a WAAAGH is called, orcs come out of every corner to follow this new, very powerful lord into battle. What actually happens in the game is it will spawn a full 20 stack under AI control that is going to follow your army around and help you. You can even give very limited orders to this free stack, such as raise the city right beside you or attack this army and similar sort of stuff. Now, I know initial thoughts on that is it's going to be, oh my god, a free full stack, that is so overpowered. I mean, just imagine that, a free full stack. That's like Attila's Doom stacks, all over again. Now what we need to start taking into consideration is how hard this is going to be to achieve. It is not going to be just happening willy-nilly over the campaign map here. A WAAAGH is a rare event, and it's a very large and dramatic event. So I feel it should be huge. If anything, for a WAAAGH, it's a little underpowered. You should be able to get a second layer of WAAAGH or something, 2 3 stacks spawn. The AI is not going to be able to call WAAAGHs a lot. Think to Rome and Attila. How often do you see the AI having an army that's full integrity? I barely ever see it. I normally see AI armies with very low integrity that are thinking of rebelling. They're not nearly full and going to call a WAAAGH if they're orcs in this new one. And as for players, it's not going to be something you're going to be able to get quite easily, because orcs are not going to be easy to please. This army is going to be needing to fight constantly. It's going to be needing to get its fightiness up. It's going to take a wee bit. And it's going to need to happen fast to keep that fightiness up and to keep that wrecking ball sort of going with what the orcs are. This, again, really adds to the sort of blitzkrieg strategy that the orcs really should be playing. Overall, I think orcs are just going to be the masters of blitzkrieg in this total war. That's their sort of campaign sort of play style. They're not great settlement builders, they're not great that, they are just masters of the blitzkrieg. They just want to charge across the place and conquer. And it really suits the lure, because just the bloodlust of the orcs, the way the WAAAGH works, because in the lure, when a WAAAGH is called, the orcs follow that lord like they're little puppies, like a little AI puppy army. Okay. We also now got to see for a split second what happens when a hero joins an army. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that he does not take up a unit slot. So though he does go on the battlefield and you will be able to control him like a unit now, the agents, i.e. heroes, they do not take up a unit slot in your army, because this was a full stack we've seen him join, and he still got to join it and would still appear in the battle. So that was quite nice, and it put many people's worries about that to rest, thinking, oh, I'm going to have 20 units in an army, about 5 of them will be heroes, and I'm down to 15 units, and like half of them are one man, and all that sort of stuff. Now, we also got to see quest battles and how they look on the campaign map, in the form of like a blue highlighted area where Grimgor could initiate a battle in his current quest chain he was doing, where that battle took place, of course, which was Blackfire Pass. It was his version of the Blackfire Pass quest battle. And when you go to initiate it, it gives you sort of a narrative blurb telling you what this battle is, all the storyline sort of sides to it, and also what you would get as rewards and what the enemy army are and all that sort of stuff. But it is worth noting that this is completely skippable. So if you don't want any of this sort of narrative stuff in your campaign, you just want complete sandbox experience, then that is still there and it can be played like that. we got to see a very limited amount of footage of the vampire counts that at some point in the video included a zombie dragon in the background, but I cannot seem to find it again. So I'm just going to show you as a slowed down version of the bit where we get to see the vampire. Interestingly, this vampire was spreading some sort of corruption into the local area, which alters the campaign map, making it look more like a vampire sort of territory, like graveyardy, dead trees, that sort of thing. Which apparently has something to do with their unique map gameplay. So obviously in land they own, it'll probably sort of slowly turn into this, and maybe they can sort of spread this corruption into like nearby areas or wherever their vampires sort of go, and their armies will probably get some sort of buff fighting in this sort of land, and maybe debuff to enemies. It'll probably have some sort of gameplay like that, but this is all speculation at this moment. We just know they have this sort of tame campaign sort of gameplay going on, something there. We don't know what it does yet, we just know it exists. Now, they also stated that there's going to be a developer live stream next week. I can't wait to watch that, but we don't know what it is about at all, so it could be about anything. And they also stated that they're looking forward to highlighting the races, other races, sort of campaign sort of play style. So I'm guessing we might see a wee bit of Dwarfs and Empire coming up soon to show us their unique campaign play style. That'll probably take us till just after the new year. Then they'll probably do all the vampire counts highlights next year, I'm guessing, shortly before the game is released for the maximum amount of hype for the hype train. Now, this week we also got a bit more information that wasn't from this video. We got to see the unit roster for the Empire. And to be honest, this is the first time I'm going to say the word disappointed. I was a wee bit disappointed to see the selection of units was rather limited compared to what I was expecting. There was about 20-25 units there, with several units missing, such as Bright Wizards. In fact, most of the colleges of Magic, didn't have wizards to represent them. And the Knightly Orders weren't really represented, and Flailagants and all those sort of units weren't really included. The units that the Empire do get at release are apparently just their bread and butter, their sort of state troops, their basic knights, their basic cavalry, all that sort of stuff. They're really just their bread and butter sort of units. This leads me to believe one or two things I should say. The first of which is the one I'm hopeful for. One, the first thing is that you acquire these, we'll call them tasteful units, the units that aren't the bread and butter, through, say, acquiring a new province that is their homeland, or something else that links that unit to your faction. Another good example I can think of for the orcs is your orc faction manages to consume another orc faction by dominating them in battle, forcing them to join you, that sort of orky sort of stuff. And that faction was a savage orc faction, which gives you access to savage orc troops. This could work in a similar way for the Empire. Is say Nuln gets special cannons because that's their specialty, and you get Nuln to join you either through diplomacy or however, and then you get access to that unit. And that's how I'm hoping it is, because I'm guessing there will be faction specific units, and I'm hoping that is it, so I can see that being true in the very least. Like with the Nuln gets a great cannon, special great cannon unit, and I don't know, a Dunmer faction gets a Knightly Order special unit, and when you get them to join you sort of thing, you unlock that unit as well. Sort of how you unlock legendary lords throughout the campaign as well. I'm hoping it's like that, and it would make a lot of sense for it to be like that. But I see a second thing maybe being what's true, or maybe both actually, to be honest. The second thing I see is that all these tasteful units will be added over time in the free LC and DLC for the game, or even in the later standalone expansion games for this trilogy. I actually think it's probably going to be a mix of both those things. We'll probably get about 4 or 5 more Empire units that are faction specific that we'll be able to unlock in our campaigns, like unlocking the other legendary lords for your campaign. And we'll probably get more units coming out with DLC and free LC and the later standalone games. For example, we might get Huntsman in a DLC pack that adds several units and just buffs out the factions a bit more. That was a really big long one today, folks. I had so much information to go through. Sorry, I just sort of tried to get through it pretty fast, but there was a lot to talk through, and I'm dreading how long this is going to be. I've been talking for quite some time. I hope you have all enjoyed this. Please remember, if you're going to be buying this game, pre-order, pre-purchasing, or buying on release or whatever, follow the link in my description and save yourself a huge amount of money, because the game there is at a huge discount. As always, folks, stay informed and stay tuned. See you next time. Bye-bye.